and TP.
Corporate, Happy New Year, Sam. Corporate Policy and Finance Committee meeting, Wednesday, the 7th of January 2026. Do we have any apologies?
Yes, Chair. So we've got Councillor Scott has given his apologies. Councillor Spretkovich has given his apologies with Councillor Sperry standing as substitute. Councillor Drake has given his apologies with Councillor Heritage standing as substitute. And Councillor Timmins has given his apologies.
Are we happy to accept those?
Chair, just to add before you accept those, that aside from Councillor Timmins, who's got a work commitment, all the others are personal commitments that they've got
Fine.
this evening.
Okay. Is everyone happy to accept those?
Mm-hmm.
And thank you both for standing in. Do we have any declarations of interest?
No.
Any Chair's report on urgent items?
Thank you going forward, Chair.
Public questions?
Nothing
Nope.
to say.
Minutes for the last meetings? Everyone happy with the minutes from the meeting in November? Yeah.
So if I could ask you to
Oh,
initial the government things for each page.
oh yes. Okay.
On 7th January. The vote on the
7th of the 1st.
26. Yeah, vote.
First, get a show of hands for the minutes, please. Thank you. Number 6, officers' reports. So we'll start with 6.1, which starts on page 5, the board planner and resolution tracker.
Thank you, Chair. So just for the committee to note that all the items on the resolution tracker from the last meeting have been marked as complete, but have to take any questions.
Does anyone have any questions on these before we move to the recommendations? No. So we are asked to note and approve, subject to any comments or amendments, the forward planner attached in Appendix A, and note the resolution tracker attached to Appendix B. Approve the removal of those resolutions marked as B. Everyone happy with that? Second hands, please. Thank you. And now we'll move to 6.2, which is the bank reconciliation from page 10.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is a regular item and is for this committee to note that the bank reconciliation has been completed, which is in line with our financial regulations, but I have to take any questions. Bit of a straightforward item.
Yeah. Any questions? No. So the committee is asked to receive the bank reconciliations as of 30th of November 25 and also note the total funds available in the bank accounts as of the 30th of November 25 as £850,000, £850,000 to bonds 53.53. My goodness, that's very precise. Is everyone happy to accept that? See hands, please. Sam? You. Now we're at 6.3 outstanding income, which is page 18.
Actually, like the previous item, this is a new regular thing for the committee to consider. It's to present the outstanding income as at the end of November. With the way that we operate, the majority of the transactions are paid before the goods or services are provided, and so our debt levels are normally very low. And I'm pleased to say that all the information on Appendix A on page 20 has now been paid. But
Brilliant.
have to take any questions about the outstanding income.
So do we not need to note that schedule now?
So we just need to note it because it was outstanding as at the end of November. It's still for notings.
Okay. Any questions for Danielle first or no? And we note the schedule of outstanding income the 13th of November, please. .4, which is page 21, which is budgetary control.
Thank you, Chair. So this report outlines the council's budgetary position as at the end of November, month 8 of the current financial year. If I can draw your attention to page 26, which shows Appendix A, the actual income and expenditure compared to our revised budget. The council is currently reporting a favourable net variance of £25,849. I'll quickly run through some of the key variants discussed in previous meetings for a bit of context. So the tennis courts, the income is exceeding expectation, generating more than £20,000 compared to the budget. Community event sponsorship, the levels have surpassed the original target provided, which has also provided additional income. Investment interest, this is higher interest income, was achieved due to reduced capital spend and higher cash balances throughout the year. The Rothampton Pavilion, the revised design was, the design of the pavilion was revised, which has resulted in lower anticipated running costs, creating a favourable budgetary variance. On employees, following the restructure that was agreed by February HR committee, posts were budgeted to start in April, but were delayed until June, July time. So we've got a bit of saving there, but this is obviously a one-off saving. Also, the pay award was budgeted at 5%, but actually came in at 3.2%, which is added to that. On corporate management, insurance premiums have stabilised after years of above inflation increases, which has delivered a budget saving. And the last one is the bad news one, which is the adverse variance on tree works with significant overspend, which relates to the extensive works following the health and safety survey. So they're all of the variances that we've discussed before. There are no new variances. It's just that the tennis courts and investment in interest have increased the favourable variance, and the tree works have increased the adverse variance. Yep. But it's overall, it's a net £11,000 favourable increase compared to what was presented at our November meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Any
questions? All right, clear, thank you. So we are asked to note the report and note the release of, am I on the right one? Yes, note the release of the reserve set out in Appendix B. Everyone happy with that? So now we're going to go to the budget, which is a separate document.
Yes. So this report sets out the draft budget for 2026-27. Members that were at the November meeting will recall that the committee agreed a target of keeping the precept increase to no more than 5% once the updated council tax base was applied. Officers have since reworked the budget with the latest information. I'm pleased to report that we are able to present two viable options, both which fall below that 5% limit. If I can draw your attention to the table on the second page of the budget report, the triennial pension valuation has now been completed. This confirmed a very strong funding position with a surplus funding level. As a result, the employer contribution rate is expected to reduce from 21.15% to 17.5% from April next financial year 2026. While this position remains while this position remains provisional until March, it represents a significant positive shift in the council's financial outlook. Of the two options presented, option A includes the anticipated additional income from the ice cream licence. Under this option, the precept increase required is 3.73%, representing an annual increase of £4.28 for a Band D property. Option B removes that income for prudence, increasing the precept requirement slightly to 4.32%, representing an annual increase of £4.96 for a Band D property. So that's a lot of numbers.
So those numbers that you've just read out, what number are these? These 4 points, is that 4.3 where that is stood, or is that?
So
Chair, it's 4.2 and 4.3.
Yeah, fine. Easier to locate them. So, how does everyone feel about that? There's quite a big debate at the last meeting around the percentage increase. But not, John isn't here. We agreed a target of 5%.
Be allowed to know who the golf course trader who didn't renew their licence is? Or is that private?
No, it's not. It's not private. Being public domain, Chair. So it's brown bread.
What is brown bread?
Yeah. So essentially, yeah, they didn't renew their trading license with the district council. And you need to have a trading license in order to trade on public areas. And so we liaised with them. However, they just indicated that they wouldn't be seeking to get it, and so we terminated the license.
Okay, so Daniel, what you're asking us to decide on, there's an A and a B, isn't there?
So I've set out in the recommendation
Yeah.
option A, but then it's whether you want to go for option A, option B.
And remind us of the difference between A and B?
So either an increase of £4.28 for A or £4.96 for B.
I think, Chair, if I may, the key difference really is about slight levels of risk. I mean, we're
Yeah.
not talking about huge numbers here.
Yeah.
The reason that we flagged the option B is because that ice cream tender license isn't actually signed and sealed as now,
Yeah.
although committee has approved it. So the option B is a slightly less risky approach in case that £10,000 doesn't end up coming in.
Absolutely.
So that's the kind of key
Yeah.
difference why I want to include it in. I think every other number is pretty solid throughout the whole budget, including the triennial changes. I think that will come into place.
And we didn't need to make any big changes, did we, in terms of what we discussed last time? So that's brilliant news. Okay, so has anyone got any questions on that before we look at the recommendation? No. So are we happy to take 2.1.1, the base budget for the year, set out in Appendix A? Or do we want to go to B and take the lower risk?
I would go personally for the lower risk. It seems to me,
B.
yeah, it would be sensible.
Okay. Alvin? David?
A.
A?
It'll be up to you guys. You have the majority on the council, but I'm inclined to go with option B, to be honest with you, because I think that the lower risk option is better. But to be honest, it seems like the differences within variance for this year. So
It's very
I think
small.
we're kind of arguing two sides of the same coin.
Yeah. Okay, so can I take so if I just say B on here, will that help, or do you need me to go through these one at a time?
So if we go for B, that remains the same. That becomes that, and then that becomes.
Real time calculations. I know that.
So they're the only two.
So I now change that one to B, yeah? Or it's in Appendix A, so that's no different. Okay. So I'm going to take these one at a time. The base budget for 2025-2026 is £2,205,920. Is everyone happy to accept that? Yeah. And I'm going to ask for a show of hands on A or B. So can I have a show of hands for A, please, first? And B. So B will be the line 2.1.2 will change to 1,760,000, representing a Band D equivalent of £119.79p. Is everyone happy with that? Yeah, thank you. Is that?
Yeah, and then just do
Can we
the
just note 2.1.3 and 2.1.4, please, which is the council tax base figure and the medium-term financial strategy. Thank you. Happy with that? Right, we are now at the Treasury Management Investment Strategy, I believe, which is page 28.
Thank you, Chair. So as a quick reminder, the Treasury Management Strategy for the current financial year was last reviewed at our meeting in January 2025, and this report is set out the strategy for 2026-27, so next financial year. When looking at the strategy in Appendix A, there's no major change to the strategy, with key changes shown in paragraph 4.7 in the report. The approach taken is always very much a low risk, low reward approach. Just to be clear on that, our current investments are the current account with Lloyds, our reserve account with Lloyds that gets 0.8% interest, a 32-day notice account with Lloyds which gets 2.5% interest, and we've got 200,000 in a money market fund with an organisation called CCLA, which is Churches, Charities and Local Authorities, with an average yield of 3.98%. And the large one, if you like, is our longer term investment of £1 million with Nationwide that has been placed for 6 months. It's currently achieving 3.76% and matures in the middle of April. Let's have to take any questions.
I think that's quite clear from my point of view. Any questions from anybody?
Is the 2.5 million immediate assets like kind of necessary for immediate assets in the whole pool?
You can always debate that. I think with the sorts of purchases that we've had going on at the minute and with the large capital, it's looking at our cash flow and when things are potentially going to happen. It's been, I thought it'd be better to have it closer to hand just in case it's needed, rather than having to go through the process of investing money in longer term and then having to forfeit any interest. So I'm constantly looking at the cash flow and weighing up those risks and rewards.
I know that in terms of cash flow planning, you must have already done a good job. It's just that there's an option of, from the investment point of view, there's an option of 32-day call account. So by sitting 2.5 million in an immediate account, I'm just thinking, even though you anticipate that for the next 32 days, it shouldn't be like we will spend 2.5.
Yeah, I'm not intending it to be that high. So there's I think in the strategy I've increased the amount that I'm able to put into the 32-day account, just because it's a good halfway house, kind of, as you say, where it's not tying the funds up for a month or 6 months at a time or a year at a time. If we're able to put it there, then I can manage cash flow better and get a slightly higher interest.
But just apart it for the future, because there's 3 buckets, 1,500,000 and 500,000 and things like that. Is one of those 500,000 can be put in the 32? That makes to me, it makes more efficient.
Yeah,
I think I trust your professionals.
Anyone else? So we are asked to consider and approve the Treasury Management and Investment Strategy for 2026-27 Appendix A. Is everyone happy to approve that? Thank you. And now we're on 6.7, the review of the internal control and audit.
Thank you, Chair.
51. Sorry.
There are no material changes to the arrangements. This is just a chance for councillors to review the document. I can just flag that the fidelity guarantee insurance is in place in the event that the loss of funds following employee fraud, and is always provided in round millions. Cover is currently at 3 million and it's recommended this cover remains at this level. But have to take any questions.
Any questions? So we are asked to approve the attached review of internal control and internal audit arrangements and the town council's internal crime indemnity cover remaining at 3 million. Are we happy to proceed?
Sorry, I do actually have a question. So the highest cash reserves held by the council at any given point is £894,000, 450.
No, sorry, that's when so we receive the preset at that point, and that will be the big chunk, but we'll obviously have other investments at that point. So it's just at that April and September, that's when we receive the preset, which is the biggest.
I see, that's so
Chunk
following
of
that
money,
point.
yeah.
is it? Okay, yeah. That's so what is the highest cash on hand?
So it'll be,
Sub 3 million.
yeah.
Right, yeah. Thanks.
Are we all happy with that then? So that's all. Thank you. So 6.8, which is on page 58, which is the risk management and strategy register.
Thank you, Chair. So the risk management strategy and risk register were last reviewed on the 5th of March, 2025 by this committee. The risk management strategy is included as Appendix A, or the risk register, Appendix B, is available online due to its size. Amendments in Appendix B are marked yellow, and so with alterations marked in yellow, new in red, and then new in green, deletions in red. To take any questions?
Is there anything you want to highlight to us from March last year? It's a major change.
No, well, there hasn't really been any major changes. We've still presented the sort of top 10 risks in 3.4, just to where that was a request from a previous discussion.
Yeah.
But there's no change to the strategy, and the risk register is quite a operational document with things coming and going as they need.
Telling what's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember Calvin and I going through that review at great length.
Yeah, could I had a couple of points just
Please
to the
do, yeah.
just to the 3.4 on the table where we've identified those that probably are the sort of the highest risk to us. I just want to give a bit more context to some of them, just as to how we ensure that they are kept well monitored and under control, if you like. So the first one, in terms of vehicle plant and storage, we do have an earmark reserve, capital reserve related to the Town Ranger equipment in vehicles, which is kind of a bit of a rainy day fund. But at the moment, we are currently reviewing that. We're topping it up. We top it up every year through the budget, having made big investment when we took the Town Ranger service in house. We're currently reviewing that to see whether there is some need to purchase some additional equipment now to help with our continuity, because we do tend to run with some bits of machinery in only having one of them. So when that bit goes down, we do have another machine that could be utilised, but we don't have much sort of backup. So we're having a look at the continuity on that. And the other one is vehicles, Town Ranger vehicles. So we are kind of, where the Town Ranger service has grown, we are now probably at a real bit of a bottleneck in terms of not having enough vehicles to get around. So we are at the point at times of having to do sort of drop-offs and really think about, who's taking what out. So again, we may well come through to committee at some point in the first half of this year with recommendations to purchase a new vehicle, of which we've got some reserves set aside, just so we rather than waiting for one to break and come end of life. We bring one into use now that will kind of make things a bit easier. Street furniture, both in terms of dog bins and litter bins, the way in which we keep on top of that is that the Town Ranger rota, there is a specific shift every day associated to that. So the Rangers can't get distracted going off elsewhere. You know, that is the primary role that one of the Rangers does every day. And if there was only one Town Ranger in, which happens at times with leave and sickness, that is the job that they go and do. And we quickly see if that wasn't, and you probably see in your inboxes. And then just running through, just picking up a couple of others, the financial management. So the sorts of reports that you see coming through here really do help to kind of monitor where we are with that. So the budgetary control, very clear variances, both favourable or not. You get to see that on a regular basis. So that's our way of kind of keeping on top of that from a governance point of view. And then there's lots that Dan does, and he kind of downplays slightly his kind of cash flow analysis. It's a spreadsheet that I often can't get my head around, but it's brilliant in a month-to-month basis in mapping out where we think we'll be, and that all plays into that financial management side of things. And then the last one I was just going to reflect on is premises and assets. So the Community Services Committee approve a management plan for every one of our buildings and assets. And that's very comprehensive. That covers all the things that legally we have to do and all the things that we need to do to ensure that they are maintained to a high standard. And we're well on track with kind of meeting all the actions within that as well. So I just thought I'd bring to life some of the things we do behind the scenes that show we're on top of these as well.
Thank you for that, colouring that in, that's good. Has anyone got any questions on that? So are we happy then to take the recommendations set out in 2.1 to recommend that the risk management strategy in Appendix A and the register for 25-26 in B will be agreed and forward to Council for final approval? 6.9, which is page 72, is the business continuity plan.
Thank you, Chair. So in summary, this document is used when an incident has occurred to ensure that we can get back up and running as quickly as possible, basically. There's not much more to add, but take any
When
questions.
did you last go through this?
So it'd be this time last
I
year.
was going to say it looks quite familiar. Oh yeah, January 15, yeah. So any major changes?
No, Chair, it's
No.
just a case of tidying it up and
Organising, whatever, yeah.
making sure there are, because of GDPR, there are other appendices listed on page 79 which aren't part of the pack because of the
Yeah.
information they hold. But we go through the annual exercise of making sure everyone's contact numbers are up to date and the right, say, business partners at different organisations that we use, whether it be security companies or the bank. We've got the right information there. So everything's.
And do you change that on an ad hoc basis through the year if something changed?
Yeah, but in a perfect world, it is, if something's got forgotten, then this
Yeah.
is the concrete time of
Yeah.
making sure that it's, if anything has been missed, it's picked up.
Thank you. Any questions for Daniel on business continuity plan? Is anyone happy to approve this? For another 12
I've
months?
got one
Oh,
thing
sorry, I
to
didn't see you there.
just for interest. So as part of this, the management team early this year did a bit of work on single points of failure. So just making sure that there aren't any issues either where one person can only do something or one system or procedure can cover something. The downside of being such a small team is that you will have some of those in some
Yeah.
places, and so and then there won't be perfect solutions to them. So, but we've gone through a process of identifying them and then starting to put in place kind of the continuity plan as best we can for them. So just thought I'd flag that as well.
Is there one specifically you want to flag, or is it?
Not particularly. I mean,
Okay.
there are just certain things that mainly relate to people. So if you take someone like Heather, who's been here for forever and runs planning, planning itself is probably a bit of a single point of failure.
Yeah.
We've only got Heather who
We
does
rely
that.
on her.
I could come in and do it, but I couldn't do it to the standard. So there's things like that we're looking at. We've done a lot of work in recent years around our technology. It means that we are pretty, very robust continuity wise. We're all on the cloud. If we lost these buildings, we'd be able to operate remotely. We've got an arrangement with the Harpenden Collective now where we could have desk space in times of in continuity times as well. So we've done an awful lot, but I just wanted to flag we're doing that extra bit of work just to make sure you need to keep checking on these things
Yeah,
and
makes sense.
be on top of it.
On this, So this is quite opaque for me because I've not seen it before.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult for me to tell if there's anything new or different in here. So my question for you officers is there anything in this that you're asking us to approve that has changed from last year's continuity plan?
No, nothing significant has changed at all.
Okay.
There might be some tweaks around wording within here. There was a couple of things that when we did into the risk management strategy, because they were more like risks rather than business continuity stuff. Perhaps one that would be a significant change is the addition of reference to Dan's role as the responsible financial officer.
Right.
I'm sure that should be in. I know we're talking about putting it in there. So previously there was reference to my role and the loss of that role, given the legal role that I undertake. But we've added the same with Dan's role as well there, because again, that is a legal appointment to have a responsible finance officer. So that's probably one that is sort of a significant addition, if you like. But nothing's come out of it that is.
On page 82.
Just top page 83.
Yeah, sure.
And then you just said it was updating contact details pretty much for the updates.
Yeah.
And of course, Chair, just to flag, there's obviously going to be a lot of change in local government in the next couple of years. And if the Town Council does end up doing more, part of our business cases when we consider doing that is got to be around the continuity side of things as well.
And the rest.
So these documents are really key when we come to that stage. And for those of you that remember the Town Ranger Service business case, that included big sections on risk, continuity, and how we sort of deliver. So
That's great, thank you. Any further questions? Everyone happy to approve the business continuity plan? Thank you. Page 89, 6.10 for the safeguarding policy.
Thank you, Chair. So this report presents the updated safeguarding policy for review and approval. The policy sets out how the Town Council will protect children and adults at risk from harm, ensuring compliance with statutory duty and best practice. It provides clear guidance on responsibilities, reporting procedures and consent requirements. This latest version represents a significant shift from the previous policy, which was last reviewed in 2023. It moves away from detailed operational instructions such as event ratios and lost children procedures and more towards high-level governance framework. Key updates include mandatory online reporting via the HCC systems for safeguarding concerns, stronger alignment with UK GDPR, particularly around consent for photography and communication, clearer definitions of abuse types and responsibilities, simplified DBS guidance and removal of operational detail, which will now sit in separate documents like event manuals. The appendix contains the full draft policy, which outlines principles, reporting routes, key contacts and expectation of staff, volunteers and counsellors. The only other thing I'd add is the key thing for me when reviewing this policy, I didn't want it to be something happens that someone might find concerning and want to flag it, but then would have to tell me and then it'd be me reporting it to Herts County as a concern. I want it to be every individual has their own view about whether something is concerning them or not, and they have the responsibility of taking that action and reporting it to Herts County. So rather than it filtering through to a lead officer, each individual should be empowered to report things as they see it.
Thank you. What I love about this is that you've highlighted the differences. That made it really easy. Thank you so much for doing that. Great. Has anyone got any thoughts on the changes which are listed on page 90 and 91?
I would just add one bit of context, Chair, if that's okay.
Please.
And that is essentially in 2023, it's quite a new document. I don't think it was the first one, but it was we hadn't had one too long. And the reason we decided we needed one is because the Town Council had started to do a lot more directly with vulnerable people. So
Okay.
we started to do a lot around the dementia cafes and
Yeah.
a lot around supporting young people in particular.
Mhm.
So it was a relatively new document, and so that's why kind of naturally it was quite operational there, because at those points in time we were also running a lot of those things directly. So as we have kind of as things have become established, we are less in sort of direct day-to-day running of these things. So that's why this is a slightly sort of more strategic document now. But that's the sort of journey it's been on. That's where it first come from, when we started to have more direct contact
Yeah.
with vulnerable people.
And if I'm looking at 3.6 and the 2026 statement where it says do not delegate this responsibility, is that standard across most councils? We're not doing anything different here that's kind of not expected.
So I think it'd be difficult to say whether it's standard or not, because we haven't carried out a sort of review. But there's always two schools of thought with these things. It's whether you filter these concerns through to one person internally, and as Dan says, that person then becomes the person who decides whether it's referred or not, which can be quite tricky. You know, it's one person's view on it. And I know there are some places that do have the broader delegated approach, which is what
Yeah.
we're taking. So
Yeah.
I couldn't say that, you know, we're majority this way or that way. This is what he's
Yeah,
doing.
yeah, okay. Else?
No.
Any questions? We are on the safeguarding policy. Alistair, if you've got any feelings on that either.
Apologies. Trained rather longer than it's supposed to.
Okay, so I am going to,
Can I just ask?
oh, sorry.
So you're saying that it's changed because the nature of what the town council's role has changed because you're less hands-on. So what happens if you become more hands-on again?
So it's a good question.
Yeah.
So I think the answer is that things have evolved. So many of the things that are not in the safeguarding policy anymore are elsewhere. They're either been sort of evolved into our risk management strategy, where they've become like business as normal, so they've gone into that. And so this document doesn't capture all of those because some of those things are elsewhere already. If
Right.
that makes sense. So if I look at the some of the changes, so there's some examples of different things. So like lost child procedures as an example, that is really relevant to our events, and all of our events management plans has lost child procedures within it.
Right.
And our risk management strategy says that we have to have those. So it would become a duplication now to keep some of those things in here. So all the things we need are still in place.
Yeah.
They're just not all set out in a safeguarding strategy. Some of them will be elsewhere. So even if we become more hands-on, if next week we I don't know, started running a under 15s youth club as an example,
Yeah.
we've still got all the mechanisms for our risk management strategy, our business continuity plan, and this to ensure that we've got everything we need. So this is more of a high level document. When we started this, we probably didn't have all those things. That's why they're all in here.
Okay. So if somebody was to start a new role, how would they understand how to deal with a safeguarding issue if it's spread over a number of documents?
So a new employee.
Mm.
Yeah, so as all employees have essentially an employee induction and handbook.
Right.
So that all the documents that you are mandatory have to be reviewed and have to be signed off, basically.
Okay.
So that in that particular example there, we need to make sure that the staff handbook is up to date,
Yeah.
and then we monitor whether the things are being read, whether they've been signed off. You know, a lot of the mandatory, well, all of the mandatory stuff we physically get employees to sign.
Right.
So then that goes back to the risk management plan, because the risk management strategy helps us to ensure what needs to be in the employee induction side of things.
Okay.
Historically, what we probably had is we had these different things referenced in multiple documents.
Right.
But the danger with that is if something gets changed somewhere, you're then having to change all these different types of documents. The health and safety policy is probably the key one with that. Is another one that we streamlined. Is much more high level now because there's all these other things exist.
So does this then imply that new hires will not be DBS checked? Is that the implication of that? DBS checks are not required unless unsupervised access occurs.
Yeah, I mean that's correct, but then that's also the legal requirement now as well. So employees don't don't need to be, nor should they be DBS checked unless they meet the specific requirements within their role.
So if they were coming to run the under 15 youth club, that would require them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
If they're coming to do an admin role.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah.
absolutely.
So it's role specific rather than.
Yeah. So what we have done here is we have made sure certain employees have got DBS checks just to ensure they have
What they
them.
do, yeah.
So for example, so for me, who is one of the lead officers on this, I've got that in place because even though my day-to-day role doesn't require me to have one. Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we come to doing the film competition that the Arts and Culture
Yeah.
Committee have authorised, does the risk plan then mandate that those members of staff have been DBS checked? Because, or is that not? So are we effectively putting children in a room with people who potentially haven't been DBS checked?
No, because it's all to do with supervision.
Right.
So at no point in time will any of our employees be supervising children.
Certainly on their own.
Yeah, so and not on their own. Yeah.
Okay.
So if part of that program included one-to-one mentoring with an employee, and they were going to be stuck in a room, behind sort of closed doors once a month, then that would be classed as supervised. And so in that sense, that sort of role would require a DBS check. Okay. But these are unsupervised. We don't have any supervised roles at all now. We used to. The Dementia Cafe used to be one where we did, particularly, or our volunteers did, and that's the other important thing with this, that these policies don't just cover our employees; they cover our volunteers as well. But our whole volunteer scheme with the Dementia Cafe has moved to a third-party organisation. So again, that's why we wouldn't be relevant to this.
You happy with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is everyone else happy? In the previous questions and answers. So I'm going to ask us to note the review of the safeguarding policy as in Appendix A and approve the safeguarding policy along with any other alterations which everyone happy to do that. Thank you. And finally, we are on to 6.11, page 101, which is the community grant fund application.
Thank you, Chair. So this application was previously discussed at the September meeting. At that meeting, committee agreed to defer the application until more information on membership numbers was available following the previous grant awarded for gateway signs. Harpenden Photographic Society are requesting £750 to support production of 50 additional copies of their commemorative photo book celebrating the Society's 90th anniversary. These books will be distributed to local organisations and community groups to raise awareness of the Society and encourage new membership, particularly following a decline in numbers post-COVID. As a reminder, the committee, the Photographic Society received a grant of £550 this time last year for the gateway access signs to help increase their membership. And on page 102, paragraph 3.4, they've quoted that they now have 85 members, which is an increase of 18% following the gateway signs. But have to take any questions.
Anyone have any thoughts either way?
So if I recall correctly from the last meeting, one of the issues was the financial situation of the Photographic Society and whether they could afford to pay the £750 themselves. Is that correct? Was that discussed?
I think it was. I think the response was that the reserves that they've got is for new equipment basically and helping people starting out. So I think it was as well for viewing the photographs. There was quite high spec AV equipment that they use.
Right,
from memory.
okay. So they don't buy people photographic equipment, do they?
No.
But they buy photographic equipment for members to borrow.
Sure, thinking it. I need to double.
I think their membership would
Yeah.
improve dramatically if.
Yeah, I do. I'm not sure they do. I think. Apologies. I think it was for AV equipment was what they
Right,
were going to be using any the funds they had because it was. I'm just trying to remember. It was something with projectors. As soon as a light bulb goes, the bulb of a projector is so much money.
right.
You're basically replacing the whole projector. So it was that kind of thing that they needed the reserves for.
Yes.
What's everyone's inclination on this?
Well, £30 a new member in the previous time roughly, isn't it? Yeah, adds 0 to 85.
In terms of their previous funding, yeah.
Previous funding to raise members, so
Yeah.
750.
I mean, that will still continue, I assume they,
Yeah, so the same basis as another 25 members. That's like quite a lot of money, I would say.
it's about £19 a book.
Yeah.
Everyone's inclination. Sam?
I mean, this is what that pot of money's there for, to support local societies, so not sure.
Well, yes, it's to support local societies, but it might be, it's different from providing, say, a youth club with a brand new youth club with beanbags and a football table that's going to get them started. That's quite a different request.
I mean, I suppose my bet it's like it's 13. By the time you've done the 2 years, it's £1,300, and it's
Yeah.
probably added 45 members. Seems like quite an expensive way of increasing a club compared to £1,300 goes quite a long way. I would have thought for quite a lot of organisations at base level. I think for me it'd be slightly different if they hadn't had the 550 last year.
My question is it's a book. It feels like it's a nice to have rather than an essential element to running the club, like light bulbs, projectors. Is the club going to close if it doesn't get it?
I mean, I think they seem to make a link that the production of the book will lead to an increase in members, and I can't see how they make that link. They're also asking for 40 books, but I'm not sure I've seen that there are 40 units that this book is going to be given to. It would have been nice to have a list of the schools, the doctors, the care homes that totaled 40. It feels like a number that's thin air.
When's the pot expire? And what is is it
It's
April to April?
4.1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
March, yeah.
And most years is the fund exhausted?
It varies year on year, but anything that's not used tends to be put into earmark reserve at the end of the year. So it's if there is any not spent, it will be able
Rolled
to do
over.
exactly.
And the amount that is currently being rolled over is £8,000 as per 4.3. Or that's
No, sorry. So we've got.
because that says 10th of November 2021. So
Yeah.
I'm not following.
So so we've got an earmark reserve of £8,000 already, but as it stands, if this application was approved in 4.1, there'll be 1,734 unallocated remaining.
Yeah. And then 4.3.
So and so the 1,734 and an additional 8,000 in earmark reserve. And then come April will be another 4,000.
Okay. Right.
It's not like we don't give a lot of grants out this committee, does it?
No, there's a list of
Not, yeah.
I personally think it would be bonkers not to give this. It seems like what it's there for, but defer to the majority. Seems like everything we're trying to encourage with the arts and culture objectives, and it doesn't seem to be a frivolous ask, and it seems to be what the pot of money's there for. So, I mean,
Yeah, I think my starting point would be it had some last time and had some success with it. Seems like quite an expensive way of buying membership for 750. I accept there isn't another use for it this time. That doesn't mean that there isn't a good cause that doesn't come up next time, which this can be reallocated for.
Yeah.
I think I'd have a different opinion if they hadn't had 550 last year, personally.
Was it advertising hoarding? We got the signs last time, yeah.
But it just feels it's a tough time for everybody and everywhere, and I'm not sure we're in the market of surely but effectively helping somebody buy membership that way.
Calvin, any thoughts?
I think last time the 550 is mainly for like putting up the awareness, heightening the awareness because it's about hotspot, and this time it's about like photography book that I think they wanted to distribute to like different parties. From the form, they said they would like to distribute to Harpenden libraries and also to like different schools, so that I'm not sure whether it will make a difference, but it seems I just want to highlight that that's a two different approach. One is like public advertisement, one is like for the children to like have a look on it, whether it will plant a seed in their mind and where they're heighten their like likeness for the photography is another question. That's what we have to discuss. The money itself, I do agree that it's quite a lot of money, but at the same time, when you like divide it by 40 to 40 different like parties, then it is like not like 20 pounds, less than 20 pounds per each. So so that's basically my thinking aloud.
What's your answer? Where have you landed on that lovely journey?
For me, I think photography is less a historical thing, and I do feel because I have 3 kids, I think they look at the telephone too much. If they have more time into physical copies, that is a personal bias. I'm not sure whether I have to declare that, but I would more be up for like support that.
this is ultimately basically, do we want to pay for 40 copies of photographs of things going on in and around Harpenden with Harpenden Town Council stamp on them to be put into Harpenden Library, History Society, Trust, Cafe, Dentist, Doctors and Schools?
And to be passed out free to potential.
No, 40 copies will be gifted to local organisations and community.
And if there are copies left over, they'll be given free to new members of the society.
Yeah, but we are effectively paying for 40 copies to be distributed into into the wider society. To me, this seems like a no-brainer. I don't understand why we would look at this and say we have people who want to make an effort to be part of the society and to contribute to it in a sense of community spirit, and we're going to take that and say, yeah, we're not particularly interested in helping you out with that endeavour. That seems bonkers to me, and I think that's what this money's earmarked for.
I think we've already made a financial contribution already towards their membership.
Mm-hmm.
We did last year.
Yeah.
And they gained 13 new members. But the point is, they've got 40 copies. Is there 40 there's not 40 libraries or schools in Harpenden. Any remaining copies will be offered free to new members joining. So part of this is around, if you join the society, you're going to get one of these books for free. which is absolutely fine for them to think, but it is one of the ways of incentivizing getting some new members on. So it's not just about 40 copies, which is going to go sitting in the library and sitting in schools.
Can I ask a question? Can we like grant like lower amount and then have them, I would like to fund 20 copies or 30 copies instead of 40s?
Yeah, we can certainly do that. I don't know the detail of the print costs and whether there's any bulk savings with the number that they're getting printed, but we can certainly say we'll only contribute X amount.
Can I get David's point of view, please?
I think it's a lot of money. I think we haven't got an official photographer in the council, to my knowledge. I know Heather takes occasional photographs and Jane does at events, but we haven't got, and if this was, as they say it is, for recording events and things that happen, I don't think it would be a waste of, it would cost us more than £750 to employ a photographer to do the number of events that they're referring to. You and me. I personally think it's not a waste of money. It's a useful investment, as far as I'm concerned, for the council and indeed the public.
As I understand it, it's pictures taken by members. There's lots of pictures taken by
An official photographer.
All the photographs taken by members. They haven't got they're all photographers. But I was referring to any photographs they take at, say, the carnival or the procession or the summer carnival, the Christmas carnival, or
Chair, just to add on that, just to clarify, so we do already have an arrangement with photographers, including the Photographic Society, to pick up our event stuff. So there is already an arrangement in place, and we do make a donation to them for things like carnival.
okay.
So the pictures we get, so the pictures we get are through the Photographic Society, and we make donations.
I mean, I think it's one thing potentially paying for something to go in and help in the library or going to school or whatever. It's another thing producing a free book to give to somebody who's joining society.
Yeah, that's not my read of this though. My read of this is by doing this and doing this outlay for things that can go into public space, it makes our per copy price affordable. And so we're able to do and produce this book with town council support and provide social benefit because it brings down the unit cost. That's my read of that. And also the other thing is, I think,
We're paying for all 40 copies.
No, you've misread that. There are copies already being produced.
Where's it?
The payment for the additional
It's so small,
copies,
my eyes, sorry.
by having the additional copies, the per unit cost comes down. So it's just managed to shut my door.
I just can't, it's too small for us to know.
Because we want to produce 40 additional copies to be given out to
Additional.
organisation. To help, but I don't see where it says the unit cost changes and benefits. Sorry?
It says that with a higher print run, the individual cost of each book decreases, so production's more cost effective.
Does it say that?
3.2 at the bottom. Also, the other thing is, so in my kind of, I appreciate I'm younger than some of the councillors in the room, but in my kind of 22 years growing up in Harpenden, the number of times I've been involved with a community social group where people have made efforts for me and for people in the community on their own time and their own dime that go above and beyond what anybody can reasonably expect them to have done, to then turn around and say, oh yes, Harpenden Society, whose members go out and photograph things going on around the town and are part of the fibre of what it is to live here. The thing we're supposedly trying to nurture and making an effort for. We have this money set aside for community grants, which you've taken the time to apply for, but no, because we've decided you're being cheeky.
I don't think you're saying that.
Well, I think that is the takeaway. If we
I don't know who's saying that. Things
how we're trying to.
There are other people who may also have a use, and you may sit here next year with something which is a very also feels like a very good use of the money. You don't have any money.
Which is why we discussed the earmark reserves.
So next year is 700. So next year, if there's a 2026 book or a 2027 book and there's another 750, would you be in favour of another 750 for another new book covering a new year?
Possibly. I don't think that has much bearing though on this. I think you have to consider this on its own merits.
Well, yes, but there's a continuous as to whether part of what you're doing is distributing to different societies and giving everybody a chance to make use of the funds, which is after all come from taxpayers ultimately, or whether there are certain bits who continually getting the benefit of it.
But to be clear, in a vacuum, you would prefer this book wasn't produced for the price of £550 as opposed to was from £550, which is otherwise being unutilised. Because that is the choice on the.
No, it's not the choice at all. What I'm saying is I'm not convinced that taxpayers' money should be being used to encourage new members, continue to encourage new members to join the society, which is definitely part of what they are saying in here. This is about increasing the membership of the society. I'm not sure that's what taxpayers' money is used for, is it?
I think of all of the community grants we could look at, this is quite a good one. But maybe
Hedgehogs might beat you on that one.
Hedgehog
Societies don't be out there.
got a strong.
Yeah, well,
But it's not really taxpayer. It's people who are struggling with lots of other things. All very nice to produce a new book for somebody to join a society. That's your council tax ultimately at the end of the day, isn't it?
so there's a few things going on. For me, I think that they'd be very lucky to find 40 places around Harpenden to present such something beautiful and glossy as it probably would be, where it wouldn't just end up at the bottom of the pile or not used. So, for example, doctor's surgeries, people rarely go in there anyway, and it's not, the library, yes, Harpenden History Society, yes, schools, quite possibly, but how many are actually going to get looked at by potentially interested parties? If this is a recruitment campaign, that money would be better spent through social media or through another channel to drive members to the society. I think you get a lot more value for money spending it that way. If it's a celebration book, which sounds like it also is, commemorative book, that is a nice to have, and it's something that might be nice to be part of, but I'm not sure 40 copies is what's needed. So that would be my take on it.
The second paragraph, we are using the offer of the book to help drive recruitment to the society. Second last, any remaining copies would be offered free to new members joining APS in 2026, 2027.
So my inclination would be if they identified 10 places which were good places, not doctor's surgeries, because I just think they'll just get trashed to the bottom of the magazines and ruined. And I think it probably is a very nice thing to hold. 10 really valuable places around Harpenden, I'd potentially look at saying yes to that.
And sorry, if 40 copies is cheaper than 10 copies, then obviously that would be something to look at. But I suspect 10 copies is cheaper than 40 copies.
Yeah. I think at least 20 of them will get wasted. That's my concern, which is then wasting people who, we have just put it up by, it was 4.1%, and everything else is going up in the world. And whilst there might not be a lot of communities on the list right now, I think the full amount for 40 copies is not something I'd put my vote to, but I would happily contribute for, say, 10 that are going to go in really good quality places.
So only 9 months into 12 months, aren't we? Isn't it?
No, I don't think we are. Oh, 9 months into 12 months we are, yeah. Okay, so how do we wrap this up? Has anyone got anything else to add?
I mean, I don't understand why, if putting the signs up around the town was successful, why not just repeat that?
I'm assuming they will be doing, because I assume they've still got the signs. I'm hoping, anyway. Because they're weatherproof, aren't they? They're not, yep.
Was successful, why not just repeat that?
Yes, Chair, so I imagine they would. So we have the rota that I would imagine they would apply for as well. So, I mean, that's a good example. That money that was granted for that has kind of got longevity,
Yeah,
if you like.
well, that's one of the reasons why we liked it. Yeah.
Remember,
Yeah.
it's at time.
Calvin, you look like you want someone to say something.
I'm more supporting your final like kind of conclusions that I think if we fewer copies and those copies are distributed to those good places. For example, one of the places I mentioned is those schools.
Yeah.
I think each school have a 90th anniversary thing.
Yeah.
I would like kind of support that. Whether it's 40 copies, some of them are distributed to new members to attract new members. I'm kind of like concur like Alistair's point. So maybe some middle ground is what my
How do we handle the middle ground, Daniel?
So if the committee wanted to vote on, rather than giving the full 750, it could be £200 for hopefully around 10 books.
or 20 depends on the costs.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the difference between are you using the books to put them in the community or are you using the books to recruit people?
I think we are more support on the books to distribute to that for example schools, all the schools in Harpenden, and then put it in their library, and one of them go to our library in the high street.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Because otherwise, if I was one of those to go, wait a minute, what freebies can I offer for people to come to members of the council?
Well, it does say the book offer update. They've actually classified as update. I can focus on it. It's further away. The book offer, in conjunction with the gateway signs, has proved to be successful in driving membership. So they've been using the book to get the 25 extra members that they've produced. So my instinct would be find, and I'm using 10 as a random number for this sentence. It could be any number. Really good quality places where the book will get enjoyed and appreciated. And I think getting it into schools is a really good idea because then you're getting the kids into photography. And their art teachers can share it with them and all that kind of stuff. But if it's going to end up in 7 doctor's surgeries, I don't think it'll get looked at, which I think is just a waste of taxpayers' money. So I think it's an interesting thing to get out there. I'm just worried that a lot of it's going to end up in places it's not going to be used, or it's going to be used to supplement membership, which I don't think it should be useful. We've already contributed to that already.
So we should lower the amounts.
So whereas we either say we'll buy 10 copies, or we have to do it, do we have to sign up an amount? Sorry, not back to them.
I think we need to sign off on an amount because where we can't guarantee what the unit price will be. So if we say, obviously we know,
250 quid or something.
250 or that works.
Okay, that's just a random number I picked. How does everyone feel about the compromise, the halfway house as a?
One third of it. Yeah.
Will the book say printed with a generous donation of Harpenden Town Council?
Does it have the Harpenden Town Council Arts and Culture Forum stamp on the inside, according to the paper? So
It does.
Yeah.
So that's
But does it say that this was produced by the donation from the Harpenden Town Council?
Well,
Can't yet because it.
just says
It hasn't
they
been.
would have the stamp included. The plan is to print 140 copies, of which we'd be funding 40 with the 750. But of course, if you bring that number down, I presume they'd probably still do the 140 print run, but they'd have to fork out more for the difference. But if they've got 85 members printing 140 copies, even by the point at which every single person in their group's got one, and they get a year-on-year 18% increase in membership. So assume your extra 13 people, still 42 copies.
If they could ask everyone just for a £5 contribution to it, and then they've made up the money, I guess. Okay, so I'm going to take a vote on the compromise first. That we choose an amount of money. I'm going to say 250 in case anyone else wants to make any amendments either way on that and see how everyone feels about that. Yeah.
Do you just want to clarify that, Chair, in the sense of the 250 is to go towards X number
Contribution
towards X number of books to go in key
areas.
key community locations?
Yeah.
Can I just ask,
Please.
if £250 isn't sufficient, what happens to that £250? If they come back to us and say, well, that's not enough, what do we say?
It's an alternative as a number.
We
Go back to them and say, I'll just pick a number here, 450, i.e. with last year's comes to a grand between the two of them. But say that if it costs less to do those numbers, then they don't have to spend all of this, but it's an amount agreed, and that's more than half, maybe 750, so 450 is more. So even if your unit cost has gone up, it should still get you 20 copies.
Does that add up?
Well, it's impossible to know without knowing.
we don't know. So I think we either just give them an amount of money and say this is a contribution towards it, whether it gets you 12 or 18 books, depending on the amount. Or we say we will happily buy 10 books, random number, and they come back and give us a price and it's a continued conversation. I don't know if we can do
How
that.
many schools in Harpenden is there in total?
Senior schools, 4, 5, 4,
4 senior schools, but primary schools?
another 5 maybe.
And the library. A little bit more, what other areas are beyond that? You're not getting much about it, I suppose at the point that you're not getting much about 10, 12, really.
Yeah.
I mean, Chair, you could say that you'd be willing to contribute up to £300 in order to purchase 10 books.
10 books.
Yeah.
I mean,
I like that.
that's probably the same.
And to your point as well, Carl, about quality places for them to end up,
Yeah.
as in not the pile of loads of other
Well, I think
women's magazines.
surely we can ask Carl to liaise with them to decide where they go.
So up to, did you say 300?
I think up to £300, that's what, 30?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Should we take a vote on that?
Yeah.
Up to £300 allocated places to contribute to as many books as possible. Good. Capture that.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. And that's it. We're closed. Thank you. 2042.